How much of a loser is the U.S. middle class in this unfair trade? And is it a zero-sum game? So the U.S. middle class loses and the Chinese win?
Well, I think that the US middle class definitely has been on the losing side of the rise of China, largely because of the number of jobs that are caught up in manufacturing and construction. And my point, in fact, is that the Chinese savings helped to breed the bubble that we had before the crisis, which of course fueled the housing construction boom and all the jobs that came with that. So that force was very disruptive to American middle class lives. But I do think that it's a bit of a misnomer to think of it as if China as a whole rises and the US falls. In fact, I like to focus in this book across the fact that the losers really come from the hinterland in both these countries, whether it's the migrant workers who, yes, are having their lives improved, but at enormous cost to their own material well-being. I mean, they're not allowed to consume as much as they could because prices are inflated as a result of the exchange rate and various other things that deny them the rights, when in fact exporters are gaining, and on this side of the coin, financiers, Wall Street, the guys who you and I look after, they're the beneficiaries. It's the middle class and say the rising working class in both countries that are kind of losing in this process.
So are what we're seeing right now in Europe, do you think that might be an end game as to what happens over here in the US?
Well, it may well be. I mean, that's the scary thought, but there could be this cathartic process. And I suppose when you call it an end game, maybe that's what we need. We need some sort of act of creative destruction to sort of wipe out all the excess debt that's been built up and still hanging over the heads of advanced countries. So yes, Europe, and precisely because of these interconnectivities. I mean, MF Global fell very, very quickly because of losses in Italy. JP Morgan's recent losses were connected to Europe. We really don't know if there were to be a big event there, how much the damage could be felt over here, and I think that there's a serious risk it could be quite harmful.
So, looking at the unfair trade, what will it take to beat that back so the U.S. doesn't follow Europe into the abyss? Does it all come back to China? Because right now, they're the only ones at the poker table with money.
I really think that it's time. I know this is not a particularly popular view, but to think about things from a multilateral perspective. We live in this interconnected, globalized world. The only way we're going to get away from these distortions that build bubbles in one place and busts in another is through some sort of coordination of policy. It's an extremely difficult task. The G20 is not exactly a rip-roaring success, and the IMF isn't exactly very popular, but that is the realm in which we just absolutely have to go to get the world back into balance. Unfortunately, that means losses for certain people because policies are going to have to be brought into equilibrium with each other, and in the process some will lose. But I just don't see any way out of this kind of cycle of bubbles until we go through some sort of coordinated approach to the problems.
This market is
stock tickers market.
Stocks have rallied this year.
We're coming into a Monday where we're going to